Hey guys, um, I think it'll be a short one today, but I just want to talk about us living in two worlds. It seems on one hand, in order for us to, on one hand we have this understanding of the natural laws of morality and to some extent the idea that all is mind and mind permeates the fabric of reality and that anything that gets created in the external world had to first originate in mind. The idea that our senses are just filters to concentrate attention to this particular density of frequencies that we call the material plane. That kind of knowledge, the kind of perception that sits above this five sense domain, and instead of taking in the five senses as reality, as the world as it exists in a solid form, the world that we live in more takes an image of the five senses and uses that as a starting point for a cascade of abstractions and ideas, to the extent where sometimes we're able to see beneath the surface of things or understand that a certain concept is multifaceted and nuanced. And I think the most important aspect of it is that it creates questions, and somehow this is how you can reach great understanding of how to orient objects through space and time, and also what true morality is, and how that in a sense has been hijacked and used against people in the society that we live in. And on the other hand, we have the normal everyday world where reality is what's given to us, reality is as it exists, and there's no concept of change. There's a resistance to change, actually. That world tries to keep things the way it is, doesn't realize that nothing lasts, everything is impermanent. Civilizations rise and fall with the ebb and flow of time, but it's your consensus reality of the local culture that you live in, from whatever country you're from. And it's difficult because I only try to elaborate my speech and seem somewhat intellectual because within my essence I'm a very heart-based person. I'm a very feeling-based person. My emotions run very deep, and I don't show it on the outside, but it creates a kind of care within me because I understand that from the beginning we're told that we could contribute to our society, to our community, and it should be common sense that it shouldn't be this world of selfishness, of dog eat dog, of rabid barbarians fighting against each other, climbing over each other's shoulders, just kicking each other's heads in, just to try and rise to the top of the money pyramid. It should, to me that always seemed like, yeah, sure, you might be able to gain power, but at the end of the day you'd never find peace, because as people I feel as if we're defined by other people, and if you wreak havoc amongst your community and the global community, then that gets reflected back at you. So to me, it always made sense from a sort of selfish altruism point of view that my well-being is everyone else's well-being, because if everyone else is okay, then I'm okay. And that kind of idea takes you out of the base nature beast that just seeks its own survival at the expense of everything else around it. It will even destroy its own environment for the sake of moving on to somewhere else. It's really quite savage in a way. But that's what I'm talking about. People like us who sit in the first world that I spoke about, we aren't taken in by society as it exists, as a reflection of the internal states of the vast majority of humans on this planet. It's simple to see that in the fucked up state that it's in, you must have a pretty fucked up, the vast majority of people must have a pretty fucked up or mind controlled, or maybe not with a nefarious intention, but just a misguided use of their potential. And see, for me, I've always, ever since I was a kid, I remember when I was 5, my mother took me to the supermarket, and I just looked at the people, and I just thought, how they were treating each other, and I just thought, this is mad. Like, I don't belong here. Why is everybody like this? It just didn't make any sense to me. But I told myself that, when I grow older, this will all make sense. There has to be, because I assumed that people were like me. Back then, I just assumed, oh, everyone has the same intention, right? Everyone wants for the well-being of others, because then it comes back to them. So I thought, there has to be a reason for this chaos that I could see as a kid, and when I grow up, I'll be able to find out, and I'll be able to be a contributing member of society. But as an adult now, it's even more confusing to me how people have been led into such a state of psychosis. And all people need to do to stop all of these wars, all this slavery, all this tyranny, is to just get up off their knees and stop begging to a religious idol, in this case a group of people called government. They just need to assert their authenticity, have the intention to not allow their minds to be programmed, but to program their own minds through their observer. Because the strange thing about these meetsat avatars is that the mind forms an ego throughout childhood to adulthood. That ego plays out programs. Now, the ego is gonna install some program in one way, shape or form. Doesn't matter who you are. Now the question is, are you going to program that from your higher self, from the spirit, the place of unconditional love? That unconditional love being incompatible in the material plane, but nonetheless, as it expresses through souled people, becomes the intention to somewhat, I feel as if, correct this bad dream in the mind of God through his own means of transmutation, through the existence of souled people, return the material plane to the source. So are they going to program themselves through the observer, through the soul? or are they going to allow themselves to be hijacked by this psychopathic false god of a thought form, of an egregore? The Gnostics called it the demiurge. This pervading group think that's worldwide, that seems to be causing humanity to eat itself from within, to destroy everything in its path. It's the expression of pure evil. The Native Americans called it Wetiko, a mind virus that the shamans of the time were trained to spot out in their communities and to either fix or to ostracize the ones who weren't able to rid themselves of this mind virus, this hive mind. The psychopaths in those communities, who are broken humans with no possibility of reformation, were actually, they were just as dangerous to those communities as they are here today. The system is geared towards psychopathic reward. The system rewards psychopathic behavior. So in our system, the effects of psychopaths are more prevalent and more impactful on a global scale. But back in those tribes, the shaman, who I think probably was a person who had soul, came from that place of unconditional love, they ostracized the psychopaths from the village and just left them for dead. But it's sad, but what can you do with these people? You can't fix them unless they're secondary psychopaths. But I'm talking about primary psychopaths here, the ones who are born with a malfunctioning limbic system, the limbic system governing emotions and empathy. These people do not distinguish the tissues that they use to wipe their ass in the morning and you or anyone else. People are a tool to them to further their own narcissistic and psychopathic ends. So yeah, I want to talk about these two worlds and just living two lives. And I'm sure this is a reality for everyone, unless you've been able to cut yourself off from the system and do some kind of freelance work, which is what I'm currently working on. I'm currently trying to get an art business up and running, but yeah, it's just difficult having to bring yourself down to the level of stupidity of people who are in the demiurge, who are the demiurge, and who just abides by wisdom of the crowd. You can't tell them anything to the contrary, one, because they don't ask questions, and two, because anything to the contrary of consensus reality is perceived as a threat. It just activates their R complex, puts them into fight or flight mode, because they're saying, the subconscious mind is saying, holy fuck, this guy is threatening my worldview. And I've put 2 decades of my life into this to get a mortgage, to get a car. What about my kids? What about my reputation? All these labels that just were given to them that didn't come from them, their true selves. And you get ostracized like that. So it's like it's a hell to me having to work with these people. So I mentioned in the other video that I'm a software engineer, and the company I work in is just filled with this corporate type NPC personality. Now I think in engineering it's, there are quite a few people who are half woke there, but for the most part they've given into the program, and the aggregate of their behavior is no different to that of the extreme classification of the organic portal. So I don't know, like, I don't really know where I'm going with this, but I feel like I need to reach out to everyone out here who is in understanding of who we really are. And you know, I don't want to, I don't know, like, maybe we can get together. We need some kind of plan to, I feel, to support ourselves, because we're separate from each other, and we're forced to compete with all these other guys around us who see no other way but to fight. And there's another way out of it. It doesn't have to be like this. I truly believe that this doesn't have to be the way we have to live, but I'm just one person, and we need to help each other out here. So yeah, please reach out to me. We can have a talk. Well, that's my thoughts for now. Yeah, tell me what you think about these. You know, what is it like for you living in two worlds? I want to know, like, how bad or easy it is. What techniques do you put in place to allow yourself to live in the demiurgic worldview? Alright, that's it for now. Take care, guys.